You probably think the dodo went extinct because it was stupid, slow, and clumsy. That's not actually true. The real reason the dodo disappeared has almost nothing to do with the bird itself. Here's what almost no one talks about. The dodo didn't lose some kind of fair fight with humanity. It lost something it never had a chance to prepare for. Let's go back to the beginning. The dodo lived on a single island, Mauritius, a small volcanic island in the Indian Ocean, hundreds of miles from any other land. For millions of years, it had almost no natural predators. Over time, it lost the ability to fly entirely. Flight is expensive. It burns enormous amounts of energy. And on an island with nothing chasing you, there's no evolutionary reason to keep paying that cost. So the dodo's body adapted to a world with no danger in it. It grew large, heavy, and flightless, and it thrived that way for a very, very long time. Then, in 1598, Dutch sailors landed on Mauritius, and the dodo did something that, in hindsight, sealed its fate almost instantly. It walked right up to them. This wasn't stupidity, it was inexperience. The dodo had never seen a human being, and more importantly, it had never seen anything resembling a large mammalian predator. Its brain simply had no category for, "This creature is dangerous." Animals that evolve alongside predators develop instinctive fear responses over generations. The dodo never had that pressure. So when sailors approached, the dodo didn't run. It didn't hide. It reacted with the same casual indifference it would show a passing bird or a rustling bush. Sailors' journals from the period described this directly. They wrote about walking up to dodos and simply picking them up. Some accounts describe the birds being clubbed on the spot, with other dodos nearby showing no reaction, no fear, no attempt to flee. To modern ears, that sounds almost impossible. But to the dodo, humans weren't yet classified as a threat. There was no ancestral memory telling it otherwise. But here's where the popular version of this story gets it wrong. Direct hunting by sailors, while real, wasn't actually the primary driver of extinction. Ships didn't just bring people, they brought passengers no one intended to bring. Rats escaped from the ships and established themselves on the island almost immediately. Pigs and monkeys were deliberately released as future food sources for returning crews. Dogs came ashore too, some intentionally, some not. This is the part of the story that actually explains the timeline. Dodos nested on the ground. They laid a single egg at a time, in the open, with no natural protection, because for millions of years, nothing on the island threatened their eggs. Rats, pigs, and monkeys had no such hesitation. They ate the eggs, systematically, repeatedly, generation after generation of nests wiped out before they ever had a chance to hatch. An adult dodo being hunted was a loss of one bird. A destroyed nest was a loss of the next generation entirely. And when you combine slow, low reproduction with newly introduced predators eating nearly every egg laid, the math becomes brutal very quickly. The population didn't need to be hunted into extinction directly. It simply stopped being able to replace itself. Deforestation compounded the problem. As Mauritius was settled, forest habitat was cleared for agriculture and construction, shrinking the dodo's already limited range on an already small island. Fewer nesting sites, less food, more exposure, all layered on top of a population that was already collapsing from the inside. Put all of this together, and the timeline becomes almost shocking. The first confirmed human sighting of a dodo was in 1598. The last widely accepted sighting was in 1662, with some disputed reports extending into the 1680s. Even using the most generous estimate, that's roughly 80 years, less than a single long human lifetime, from first contact to complete extinction. And here's the detail that makes this even stranger. Nobody marked the moment it happened. There was no final expedition confirming the last dodo had died. No one at the time treated it as a historic event. The concept of extinction, a species disappearing forever because of human activity, wasn't something 17th century society had a framework for yet. People simply stopped seeing dodos, assumed they'd moved to another part of the island, and only realized decades later that the birds were simply gone, for good. By the time naturalists and scientists took the idea seriously, some experts genuinely believed the dodo might have been a myth, a sailor's exaggeration, rather than a real animal because so little physical evidence had been preserved. It took studying old ship logs, sketches, and a handful of preserved remains to confirm that yes, this bird had been real, and yes, humanity had erased it almost by accident, without ever fully registering what was happening in real time. So the dodo didn't disappear because it was foolish. It disappeared because it evolved for exactly one set of conditions. And those conditions changed faster than evolution could ever respond to. Millions of years of adaptation were no match for 80 years of ships, rats, and a species that had simply never learned to be afraid. The dodo has become a punchline, a shorthand for stupidity, for being too slow to survive. But the real story isn't about a foolish bird, it's about how quickly an entire species can vanish, quietly, almost unnoticed, when the world around it changes faster than it possibly could.